This podcast is made possible through donations from listeners like you and our partners at Tallman Equipment, where they pride themselves on equipping their customers with the tools they need to get the job done right. They are dedicated to set the standard for quality, convenience, and reliability. At Tallman, your opinion is important to them. Rate and review any product or tool you've used on their new website at tallmanequipment.com. Line 11 Clothing Company, making apparel for our first responders with a positive message to patriots that you can be proud of. A proceed of the cost goes to helping our foundation ignite the fire for father engagement. Give them a follow at Line 11 Clothing on Instagram. And last but not least, Monzingo Knives. Each knife is created with craftsmanship that only a tradesman could provide. Find them on Instagram at Monzingo Knives and get your American-made Monzingo knife today. I also would like to thank Southeast Lineman Training Center. It is a premier school for line worker training. SLTC produces an elite group of highly trained and certified graduates equipped with the knowledge, discipline, and ability to have successful careers in the electrical utility and communications industries. Learn more at lineworker.com. Welcome to the Show Up Dad. This is a podcast created for hardworking fathers. We recognize that fathers providing for their children is certainly important, but when men truly understand their unique role and gain the knowledge and skills to be great fathers, they can transform and impact future generations. Today, I'd like to give a warm welcome to Dave Culp. Dave is originally from Chicago. He currently lives on the road, traveling around in the U.S. in his fifth wheel. Dave has been in the line trade for 9 years, and he is an IBEW Journeyman Lineman for 4 of those. He's been married to his beautiful wife, Anna, for 8.5 years, and together they have 3 amazing children, Camden, Ellie, and Mackenzie. Welcome to the show, brother.
Thanks for having me, Dave. It's great to be here, man.
Absolutely. Well, Dave, I always try to open up this by you kind of giving us a background of yourself. So can you please tell us about your childhood as you remember it, if you don't mind, brother?
Yeah, I mean, I think a fairly normal childhood. I grew up in Chicago, not downtown or nothing. So I grew up mainly out in the cornfields. I was able to run around, ride a bike, play with friends in the streets, the good old days. Mm-hmm. And Dad worked a lot, 90, 100 hours a week. Never saw him. My mom ended up getting sick probably when I was about 10 years old. And that's when things got pretty crazy around the house. So I had an older sister and a younger sister. So it was us 3, mom trying to take care of us with her being sick, in and out of hospitals. And it was just a crazy, crazy time for the family. And for my whole, teen years, mom was non-existent. Dad worked a lot, and my grandma had moved in. And so she ended up pretty much raising me from about 12 until I went off to college at 18. Played lots of sports, man. That's what kept me busy. That's what kept my mind off of things at the house. That's just how I dealt with life. So just the team aspect of sports, camaraderie. I mean, that's what really drove me and kept me busy and just kept me happy. School is school. It was easy. I didn't put any effort into it. I did end up going to college and playing baseball, but it was just being at home wasn't really a place I wanted to be. My parents both smoked in the house. When I was going off to college at 18, both my sisters were pregnant. So there was the whole teen pregnancy thing going on at the house. So, I got out at 18 and I haven't been back since. So that's just kind of, what I do. I go do my own thing and that's kind of how I dealt with life for a long, long time. But, as you get older, you start to realize things, and the things that you're doing isn't really, it's just not good. It's not a good lifestyle. It's not a good mindset. So as I got older, I started dealing with things head on. I wasn't really trying to avoid it anymore. It's still a work in progress, man. I mean, life can be hard. It can take you down, but there's lots of good things about life too. And then that's what keeps me going.
It's interesting that you said that your mom battled with some sort of illness. Is she better now? Has she?
My mom actually passed away
Oh,
a year and a half ago.
sorry to hear that, man. Sorry to hear
Yeah,
that.
she well, she was dealing with all of her illnesses and in and out of hospitals, and for a long time
Hmm.
when I was off in college, I really questioned my mom. We had some really good conversations about her sickness
Hmm.
and all the medications that she was put on. My mom was definitely a victim of the opioid crisis for sure. That I blame it on the doctors. That they fed her every opioid you could think of. For whatever reason, that seemed to be the ticket to mom getting better, but it did not make mom better. Uh, but no, she passed away in her sleep, and she's in a better place now, man. Bless her heart. She was a saint. She was all the good things in life. Mom really pointed those things out, and she might have coddled me a little too much, but as I got older I started to learn, this is the real world. And it's it can be tough, and you just got to keep a positive mindset. My mom was really good about being positive, but we all miss her very much, and wish she was still here and watching her. Mom had 9 grandchildren, and the 3 that my wife and I have are my mom and dad's youngest grandchildren. So
Hmm.
it would have been cool to see her interact and watch them grow up, like
Hmm.
she did the other 6 grandchildren. But she's watching from above now, man. And it's funny. We just went on a little East Coast road trip,
Hmm.
and my mom's thing was Cardinals. And I swear, man, when things got tough, when we were in a spot when things didn't seem quite right, we would always see a Cardinal, man. Always
Hmm.
saw a Cardinal. So I know mom's looking and watching above, and she's here with us every step of the way.
Man, that's a such a powerful story right there, brother. And I just want to thank you for sharing that and opening up about that. I can't even imagine losing my mama, it's weird how our daughters are close to the fathers and the boys seem to be close to the mamas. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
much to the point where we oftentimes marry or choose our spouse off of how she relates with our mom. You know what I mean? As far as like, just like little things that they do. Like my wife has so many similarities
Hmm.
with my mother. I don't know if that holds true with your wife or not, but I see that with my wife. You know what I mean? It's kind of weird that way, you know?
Yeah. My wife and my mom, they're both very genuine people.
Hmm.
Um, they are who they are, and there's no hiding that. And they didn't try and hide that. And the more I'm married to my wife, the more I'm seeing similarities in my mom, and who they both are. So um, it's pretty crazy. And I've heard a lot of those stories going on about how the man will marry a woman who's almost identical to his mom. Um, and that's just there's nothing beats a mom, man. You know what I mean? Like growing up and you get sick, and here's mom, got chicken soup for you, and she's got a little towel to put on your head and bring down the fever, and she's just checking on you every minute. She's got a a little bottle or something, a bowl for you to throw up in if you're throwing up. And yeah, man, it's just those are some of the best memories I have of my mom, is her taking care of me when I was sick. And I, I wish I had some more memories of my mom later in my childhood, but I really don't. And it's just crazy how life works out and plays out.
And it's crazy too, because I even like think now, just thinking back, because my wife suffered with a severe illness and she's still going through her battle as well. Um, It's crazy because like my boys, whenever they tell mom's down, they immediately go to her and just give her that hug. You know what I mean? There's like like a bond that a son has with his mama. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I see it with my son too, and Anna. Um, when things get tough, I see my boy Cam going to mom, straight to mom, and mom's gonna give him something that I can't.
Mm-hmm.
And I, I'm tough on my boy, and I should be a little less tough on him, but I have, he's only 6, he's gonna be 7, and he's an awesome little dude, man.
Mm-hmm.
And he's well on his way to becoming something great. So I just got to always remind myself of that, so I'm not so hard on him.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, anytime things get tough or he's sad, he'll go crawl up into mama's arms, and it's game over. They cuddle for 15-20 minutes, and then he's good. Like
Mm-hmm.
he's good, like nothing just happened. So yeah, that bond, man, they're inseparable. Moms and sons, for sure.
Now that we're talking about that, Dave, I wanted to ask you kind of about your father. You know what I mean? You said that he worked like 80, 90 hours or so. What did he do? And what are your earliest child memories of your father?
So dad's a truck driver.
Mm-hmm.
He Before I was born, actually when I was born, he was over the road.
Mm-hmm.
So when mom and dad first got together, that's what dad did. He did runs from Chicago to LA, back to New York, and he would just be on the road all the time. And that's where he was when I was born. He was on the road, and mom called him on a payphone, back in the day, 1985. That's what you did. You didn't have
Mm-hmm.
cell phones to call and say, hey, I'm in labor, come here. So it was one of those things. Dad got to a truck stop, I'm sure, called mom, and mom says, oh, I'm in labor, you better get your butt back here. So that's how that whole thing worked. And for the first couple of years of my life,
Mm-hmm.
I think dad switched from over the road to more localized. So he drove a lot in the cities.
Mm-hmm.
He was home every night, but some of my earliest memories of my dad, and I still cherish these memories today, man. Um, it In the summer times, dad would get home from work pretty late, 9-10 o'clock, maybe a little bit later. I'd already be in bed, and he'd come in, and he'd wake me up and say, hey, did you want to come ride with me to some of the places we would go? With Streeter, Illinois, about hour and a half, 2 hours away. And to make some extra money, dad would, after working 16 hours, would come home, wake me up. I'd keep him awake, and we'd get in the truck and drive 2 hours south, get a load or whatever it was,
Mm-hmm.
and drive back in the middle of the night. And man, get home as the sun's coming up, and I I just look back on that, that my dad, he let me sit on his lap and
Mm-hmm.
drive a big 18 wheeler in the middle of the night and steer and throw some gears around. I helped him back up, helped him load up the trailer, helped him, just, I was just there and just loved it. Just loved being with my dad.
Mm-hmm.
Just cruising around a big semi. I mean, what 7, 8, 9-year-old wouldn't want to, be with his dad in a big semi driving around? And
Right.
that's kind of how I was. And crazy that my dad would do something like that. Looking at it now with 3 kids and a wife, I couldn't imagine coming home after like a 16-hour day and then waking up my son and saying, hey dude, you need to come with me and help me stay awake, and we're gonna go drive like 4 hours and go work. I just couldn't imagine that. But that was dad, man, for a long time. I remember a couple summers, that's how it was. Wake me up, and a couple of times a summer. It didn't happen all the time, but it did happen a couple of times.
Mm-hmm.
And I loved it. After the first time we did it, I was just hoping it would happen again, and it did a few more times. And he'd he'd have just enough time to coach when I was in t-ball. As I got older, he was around the sports less and less.
Mm-hmm.
He really was just working more and more, man. I felt like he just worked more and more as I got older. Um, he
Mm-hmm.
started missing baseball games and stuff, which was hard on me, but
Mm-hmm.
I understood what he was trying to do. He's trying to provide for the family, and he did it at all costs. And I talk to dad about it every once in a while still, if he has any regrets or wished he did something else. And because I'm always pushing dad to do something else other than trucking,
Mm-hmm.
he's
Mm-hmm.
my dad's a pretty talented guy. He was a Marine, stationed Camp Pendleton, and he was a sniper in the Marines. He doesn't talk very much about it, but
Mm-hmm.
my dad's a super disciplined guy, as far as, work and wanting to make and needing to make money. I mean, he just puts his head down, and there's really nothing else in his peripherals. But and as I get older, I mean, for the last 8 or 9 years, I've been almost the same way. I've picked up on those tendencies and working late and doing crazy stuff like that all the time, working 6, 7 days a week. But now just got to a point where that's not very important to me anymore. And not that my dad ended up bad or the family ended up bad at all, but as I got older, I realized dad wasn't around very much. And I definitely don't want to be like that with my kids.
Yeah. What made you not want to follow in those footsteps? Because for so many men like yourself, like myself, we tend to fall back in that realm where we just do what we know or what was shown. You know what I mean? So we think it's okay. And it's almost like it's automatic in a sense, So what did you do to break that? Or was it the realization that you were following in those footsteps? Like, how did that change? Like, what are the steps that you took to make that change?
Man, I think I can't like specifically like narrow it down to one thing, but
Mm-hmm.
just some of the things going on in my head are, you know, when I got into the trade.
Mm-hmm.
So I graduated college, and then I went and did some odds and ends in the Phoenix area for a
Mm-hmm.
few years. And I met a girl whose dad worked for the power company in Phoenix,
Mm-hmm.
and he knew I didn't like my job, so he says, "Hey, why don't you be a lineman?" And I'm like, "What the hell's a lineman?"
Mm-hmm.
So I started looking more into it, and I'm like, "Man, this reminds me a lot of being on a sports team." And I really enjoyed that as growing up. Played college baseball, played baseball into my 30s, organized baseball all the way into my 30s. So to find a trade such as a lineman and have that camaraderie and have the flexibility to be able to go where you want, travel, which I love to travel. So I can travel, I can work, and I can be with my family. And the other element was I had a lot of debt. And I saw this trade as a way to fulfill every need in my life and my future family. So I got into this trade before I met Anna. I got into this trade, more or less to set up my family. So as I got into the trade, worked those long hours, man, and I had goals. Anna and I had goals to pay off debt. So the long hours came mainly because we wanted to pay off our debt. So Anna's really good with money, by the way. So she's helped out tremendously on that whole department, because I wasn't really good with money. I
Yeah.
wasn't horrible with it, but I was able to pay my bills, and that was about all I had 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 enough to do, was just pay bills, until I started my apprenticeship in Albuquerque. That was in 2000 2013. I started the apprenticeship. So after we paid off all the debt, um, we were here in Cali. So this was probably about 2.5 years after I topped out, which
Mm-hmm.
was in 2018. So this would have just been 2 years ago, paid off all of our debt. And life kind of shifted a little bit, man. At that point, my kids were 4, 3, and 1. And I already saw what working a lot did with Camden and my middle Ellie, who
Mm-hmm.
were 4 and 3 at the time. And I'm like, man, I missed a couple birthdays. I didn't miss too many. I missed, I just missed watching them grow up. When you work 6, 7 days a week, you don't really get to see them
Mm-hmm.
grow up. You spend, an hour or two maybe with them in the evenings, and then they're off to bed. And then weekends, they're a hit or miss, And
Mm-hmm.
any any moment I had to spend with my family, I did. I never went out to the bars. Very, very rarely did I ever go out to the bars with the boys. I got asked daily, probably
Mm-hmm.
daily. Never went. Like I said, occasionally I would go, but I worked so much. It was like, well, if I have free time, why wouldn't I spend that with my family? So, so when I paid off the debt, it was like, well, what am I really working for here?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? What like why would I work all these hours when the reason I worked all these hours is to pay off debt? Now I have no debt. So, but the whole mindset and everything just shifted.
Mm-hmm.
And I've since I've been out in Cali the last 4 years, I've steadily taken probably three 3.5 months off every year to spend time, travel with my family. We just got done with this. I've worked 40 days in the last 6 months,
Mm-hmm.
and it's been awesome. It has been so freaking awesome hanging out with my family, traveling around, just seeing all the sights and sounds of the East Coast. That's what we did. We started our trip in Chicago, went up to Maine, went all the way down into Florida, spent a couple weeks in Florida, and worked our way back up. And pretty much ended in Kentucky.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a map of the United States, and we put a sticker on all the maps or on all the states as we spend a night in each one. So part of our East Coast road trip was to be able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So the whole making a lot of money thing is cool until you become debt free. I mean, that's what it is for my wife and I. We've met almost every financial goal we've ever set, and right now we're in a transition period where it's like, okay, well, what's next?
Mm-hmm.
And we still live in our camper. We have a house in Phoenix that is being rented out, and we just don't know if that's going to be our forever home, or we've talked about starting a homestead and having a couple acres somewhere and just living off of the land and working occasionally to pay bills and keep insurance, because I mean, as you know, Dave, you need to work a few months a year to keep insurance for with the
Mm-hmm.
IBW, and it's a really, really good insurance, and there's no reason to not keep it. I mean, it's amazing insurance. So
Oh yeah.
so there's this we're in this transition period right now, and I working a lot isn't doesn't sound very appealing. I know every once in a while I'm probably going to have to do it if we have some goals that we want to set,
Mm-hmm.
and we'll sit the kids down and have a little talk and let them know, daddy just spent the last 6 months off, and we got to spend a lot of time with him, but now it's time for daddy to go back to work. And and who knows, Anna and I've talked about being out here in California for the whole next year. And we have a financial advisor who's pretty much let us know that we can retire at 50
Mm-hmm.
if we keep up on our monthly installments to him. And that sounds very appealing too. So maybe this next little goal that we have in life is to retire at 50 and go from there and see what happens next.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, for sure. And that's the thing is everybody's got to have a plan. You're young, both you and your family, and it's good to see that you guys had a plan with you and your wife being on the same page, being able to set that up, because for a lot of us, myself included, I didn't have a plan. It was just kind of get the money, spend the money, get the money, spend the money, and living just for that day, feeling guilty because you're out on the road, like, like
you kind of had it different because you went through a utility apprenticeship. So you got to spend time at the home. Um, for a lot of the outside guys, we're on the road, not so much in California. I mean, there is a bunch of guys who are out in, all over the place in California, but for the rest of the United States, sometimes you're in Lawrence, Kansas. Sometimes you're in Arizona. Sometimes you're in Colorado or in the middle of nowhere, Missouri, whatever district you're at, and you're gone away for months at a time, working them long hours and stuff like that. So when you come home, it's almost like you have this guilt to where you want to just supplicate your time by buying stuff, buying gifts. And let me tell you, that doesn't work, bro. You know what I mean? It only works so far, but your kids want you. They want your time. And it's good to see that you recognize that in yourself. You recognize that in your father, and you've made the appropriate turnaround. And it's not hard. I mean, it's not easy, I should say. It takes sacrifice on its own merit as well. But just good for you, you know what I mean, to be able to see that and do that, and overcome that. I mean, that's awesome.
To even get to the decision to hit the road, I mean, that was a tough one to make. I mean, like you said, man, I came up in the utility and things were good. You could make a bunch of money there, and at the time that was the mindset. And at some point it was really just like, all right, if we want to go travel, this is probably the best time to go do it. And I mean, as soon as Anna said that, I'm like, yeah, we're selling the house now,
All right.
and it did, Dave. It happened quick, man. When she said, yep, let's go hit the road, it was, I swear to you, man, within like a month and a half, I had bought a dually. We had put our house on the market, and we had bought a camper. Like, and then just a few, I think it was 8 days. I don't know. I'm sure Anna's going to correct me on this, but like less than 2 weeks after we put the house on the market, it was sold. So it all happened very, very quickly. It was the only way that it could happen. It was quickly. I mean, everything we do, we talk about it, and then we say, all right, we're going to do it. And then it happens like right away. So, when Anna and I want to do something, we do it, man. There's no, dragging our feet at all whatsoever. So it really has, hitting the road. We did it 4.5 years ago. 4.5 years ago. And it has been like the best thing ever for the kids, for me and Anna. We've grown way closer together. We've been definitely have been through some ups and downs, man. But the kids, we live in I don't know, 450 square feet. Wow. I mean, we all live life together, and the ebbs and the flows of life are spent with everybody. We all use each other to be lifted up. We all, as the kids get bigger, it'll be, a whole interesting element added to it, seeking advice from one another and, just crying on each other. There's lots of tears. There's a whole lot of yelling, and there's, but, at the end of the day, when those kids lay their heads down at night, there is no question that they know Daddy loves them very much, and that, we pray every single night, and there's lots of praying that goes on about, some of the not so good things that happen during the day. And that, that's life, man. Like, you can't let some of those things just tear you down and bring you down, because it's life. And it's the family is the only thing you got, man, to hold it all together. It's the only thing you got. And that's one thing I wish that me and my family had when we were growing up, because we didn't really have each other. We didn't really talk about anything. Mom and Dad kept most of the stuff that was going on, medical issues and finances and all that. They kept it a big secret. And it's just kind of hard to be blindsided a whole lot of times growing up. But, our kids, even though they're super young, they're around for these these big adult conversations.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's, that's one way to, bring a family closer, is everyone knows what's going on,
Mm-hmm.
and what mommy and daddy are thinking. And I mean, of course, there's some behind the scenes conversations that mommy and daddy have without the kids, but
Mm-hmm.
for the most part, man, I mean, the kids are right there with us, and it's a lot easier for them to be there with us in the smaller setting, the 450 square feet, than it would be if we were in our home.
Mm-hmm.
The kids wouldn't be, at our side most of the time, even though they are. I just think this lifestyle has
Mm-hmm.
really kept us all together, even when we're not in the camper. It's just, it's pretty awesome, man, just to see the kids grow up and seeing them play outside. They love to play outside all the time, and that's all they do, man. They just play outside all the time. Super awesome to see. They love it.
And, and you're absolutely right on that, Dave, because, you knew where I lived and stuff like that. I lived out there in the country in New Mexico, and we had a smaller home, beautiful home, but it was a smaller home, twice, 3 times smaller than the house we have now. And you're absolutely right that it's almost like it's when it's that small of a home, there's a closeness that I can't even describe. Like, even though you're on top of each other, sometimes you're at each other's throats, everybody knows what's going on. Everybody knows what's happening. Everybody, is connected as a family unit, and the kids, you're absolutely right. They played outside. They hated coming inside, moving out here to Southern California in this big old home that we have. Now the kids are like ecstatic with their home, and we have a tiny yard. You know what I mean? They don't even want to go outside. Like today I had to make them go outside so we can go skateboarding at the skate park and stuff like that, which they absolutely love, but they're just so enamored with the home they're in because they've never had that much space. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
yeah, absolutely.
it is cool that you're able to show your kids that connection, that way, when you guys do settle down again in a bigger home or whatever, they're going to have that connection already built up inside of them. And I'll give you an example. When we moved here, my daughter and her brothers, dude, even though they had this big old home to go to, their own rooms and everything, they still stayed on their little beanie bags in the living room with each other, on top of each other. And it's like, man, you have all this space, go find space. And nope. You know what I mean? And I contribute that to that closeness of growing up.
Yeah, there'll be, I don't think there's going to be much that'll make me happier when I'm older than to see my kids be the bestest of friends, and to be able to have my kids come to me for advice, and during troubles, when times are not very good. I mean, I need my kids to come to me about that stuff. I need them to. And that's kind of what we're trying to show them now with mommy and daddy talking.
Yes.
Is that, hey, it's okay to talk about these things, even though they're not good. They're not, it's just life. This is, life isn't always awesome and good and perfect. And I wasn't really shown that growing up. I was kind of shown that, the bad things that happen in life can be shoved under a rug. I was taught that the bad things in life can, that don't have to involve everybody in the house. Like, but absolutely it involves everybody in the house. If mom is sick and dealing with an addiction, I think the whole family should know about it. You know what I mean? So we can all work together, talk about it, try and help out as much as we can. Even, at those times, we were 12, 13, 14 years old. I mean, mom absolutely needed our help, and we had no clue what was going on. It's pretty crazy. But, I just want to make sure that my kids know that life is awesome. You can be free. You can do whatever you want, but you got to work hard at whatever it is you want to do. And you just got to be a good person. You know what I mean? You just got to be a good human being, and try to, just talk to people and see what it is that they live life for, because I got lots of inspiration from other people.
Mm-hmm.
A whole lot of inspiration, man. I I didn't grow up in the best of households, but I saw how the better households lived, when I went to my friends' houses.
Mm-hmm.
I did that a lot, man. Like, that's part of the reason why I was never home, you know,
Mm-hmm.
just having a good example around. And I want to be a good example. Anna and I, we want to be good examples for the kids.
Mm-hmm.
And, we just hope they grow up to be awesome human beings, because that's what we're trying to do. And instill some faith in them too,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know if you know, but Anna was recently baptized 11 months ago.
Oh, wow.
And it was a super powerful day.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the weeks leading up to it were, very exciting, but the day she got baptized, man, that was one of the happiest days of my life. And
Mm-hmm.
it's been a game changer for our family, having more God, more Jesus, more faith.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's very powerful.
Yes.
Um, how all of that can alter a family who needs God and needs faith. It's just very amazing. The kids just talk about Jesus and God all the time, and they ask lots of questions, and they love praying with Daddy at night. And they're you know I'm not a perfect man of faith,
Mm-hmm.
and I wish I was more perfect than I am.
Mm-hmm.
And it's sometimes it just beats me up a little bit that we're not going to church every Sunday,
Mm-hmm.
or we're not praying before we eat dinner every night.
Mm-hmm.
There's just little things that I need to continue to work on, and just be a better dad, be a better man, be a better friend, be a
Mm-hmm.
better son, be a better uncle, be a better coworker, man. There's just so many areas in life where I can better myself and be that good example
Mm-hmm.
for my son. And and hopefully, one day my girls marry a man who's more like Daddy,
Mm-hmm.
um and that's just, it's some powerful stuff, man.
Mm-hmm.
Powerful stuff.
That's interesting that you said that, because most fathers I know always say, I hope my daughter doesn't marry a man like me.
Yeah.
So for you to be able to say, I hope my daughters marry someone kind of like me, like that, I mean, that's powerful. That means you're doing something right, brother. I mean, we're not perfect, like you said. None of us are, you know. I think a lot of the times we carry the burden of trying to hold everything together, right? We're problem
Mhm.
solvers as men, and we can't hold everything together. And that's why we created a podcast like this, or we have the Show Up Dad Foundation group, you know what I mean, on Facebook, to be able to have men come together and talk about these issues and stuff like that in a private setting, not airing out your dirty laundry or nothing like that, but just be able to get that reassurance, because everybody needs a hand up. I'm not one of them guys who believes in giving people handouts, but men do need hand ups, whether it be an attaboy, or hey brother, I wouldn't do that if I was you, or look at what I've done, don't make the same mistake. And that's what this podcast and this family, the Show Up Dad Foundation, is based upon. It's about guys who are imperfect, who want to become better. And you hit the nail right in the head when you said that you want to be a good role model for your sons. That's the best thing you can do. When we both worked at the utility, you and I remember in one of the supervisor's office, he had a whiteboard and it said, be the man your children think you are. And I mean,
Mhm.
I still remember that from 7-8 years ago.
Yeah.
And it still sticks with me in my head. I want to be the man that my kids think I am. And
Always.
if we strive for that, brother, you can't go wrong. And that faith you talked about, that's something to hold on to. that's perfect, because now we're showing our kids that, hey, daddy doesn't have it all together, but daddy's relying on a higher power. Daddy's relying on something. He's putting his faith in something, whether that be God or whatever, whoever, you know what I mean, listens to this. I believe in Jesus Christ. And that's where my faith lies. And that's what helps me get over on the things that I can't overcome. Because there's a lot of stuff we're going to fall into, a lot of different things. And, that's one of the things I wanted to ask you is you've traveled to 46 different states, brother, with your family. I can't even imagine the difficulties you had to overcome. I mean, I imagine that's where your faith came in, right? I mean, because there's so many different things, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So,
I mean, my grandma, she was the one where I learned all my faith from. And my mom eventually. I mean, I just learned it from them. I mean, when I just think that when you want to do something, when you have your mindset on an adventure, whatever it may be, I don't see how or why kids are the reason why you wouldn't go do something. I almost think that is absolutely the reason to go do whatever it is that you want to go do. And I hear it time and time again, like, I don't know how you go travel with your kids or how you go fly with your kids, because we've flown a lot too. It's hard. It is absolutely hard, but I've said it since day one that nothing good comes easy.
No.
And what I just feel like I'm doing my family, my kids, more justice to travel around, see how other people live, see other parts of the country, experience, the hospitality in the South, or, the busyness of the Northeast, and the quietness of the woods, the vastness of the desert, man. I mean, the just the beautifulness of the ocean. I mean, watching we got to see a sunrise in the East Coast. We've seen the sunset on the West Coast, man. I mean, it just traveling, just the adventure, it excites me, and I'm hoping that I'm lighting a fire underneath my kids' tushes, man. That that adventure is, there's nothing greater in my mind, man, than to go explore and adventure and just and like you mentioned, I mean, it's there's some obstacles involved with it, and we just drove back from Chicago the other day. We left on a Monday morning, and we were planning on 3 days traveling to get to Tucson, and we were going to spend a whole night there with my mother-in-law, and the kids. We were going to see him, and then we we're going to finish out our trip from Tucson to San Diego. So it was going to take us 4 days of driving. Well, 2 days into the trip, everyone got a cold, and just normal cold, sneezing, runny nose. And when you're driving 8-9 hours a day in a car, and being sick like that sucks. It sucks. But Anna and I brought a super good attitude to the whole thing, and the kids had a super good attitude about the whole thing. Nobody complained one time. We ended up driving. We didn't stay in Tucson for the night, so we ended up spending 3 days of driving, 2 8-hour days and a 13-hour day to get to San Diego. And those kids, man, they did so awesome. They did so awesome. They loved every minute of it, looking out the window, watching, the sunrise in the morning and watching the sunset in the evenings, just, talking up where we were getting ready to go and explaining a little bit about the area we were in. And we ended up staying in Kansas one night. We stayed in Midland, Texas, which was a huge learning experience for the kids, seeing all the the oil rigs and the wells and all that. I mean, for miles and miles and miles on both sides of the road, probably for about 100 miles, just oil rigs everywhere. And so it was just good to explain, the Permian Basin and all the hard workers that, that dig these wells and all the equipment that is necessary to do it. I mean, it was, we always spend every trip, explaining and making a learning lesson out of it, because we are homeschooling the kids too. So it's just kind of a double whammy, and we just try and make the best of our travels. There's always learning involved with it. Sometimes it's not easy. This last time everyone got sick. Next time it might be, someone doesn't want to go on the road trip, or somebody's tired of sitting in the car, and that happens occasionally, but not as much as you would think. I mean, we've got Kenzie's the youngest. She's 3. She knows nothing different than the camper. She knows nothing different than sitting in a car seat and driving, 4 or 5 hours a day. Ellie, she was 6 months old when we started this lifestyle, so she pretty much knows no different. And Camden, I mean, we've been doing this since he was 3.5, and I mean, he's a rock star. He just loves it. He brings a toy truck with him, and it'll keep him busy for hours, But dude, our adventures are epic, man. We have, like you mentioned, 46 states. We still have plans to go and see a couple of the other states that we haven't seen. Louisiana, North Dakota, Oregon, and Washington. And then somehow we'll probably end up flying to Alaska and Hawaii just to,
put the topper.
Yeah, we'll put asterisks next to those. We didn't actually take the camper, but
right.
we went and saw them still. But yeah, dude, we still have to go see some more states. So this lifestyle is going to continue on, and it's just been awesome, man. It's been just truly amazing hanging out with the kids, hanging out with my wife, and just doing what we all love. I mean, this was my dream for a long time, and now Anna's really starting to taking a liking to it. The kids, I mean, they haven't fussed. They haven't, they meet kids wherever we go.
Yep.
We're there for one day, and bam, they've got friends everywhere. Like you wouldn't believe, how many, and their friends come and go. We stayed in South Carolina on our East Coast road trip, and my son fell in love with these 2 best buddies of his. Man, they loved race cars, they loved riding bikes, they loved playing Army, and he just fell in love with these boys, man. Like, they were just the best dudes. And when we had to say goodbye to him, or to his buddies, it was kind of a sad day, man. But that's life. That's part of the lessons of life. It's not always sunshine and rainbows, and it's not to say we won't ever see him again, but you just keep making friends. You just keep being vulnerable, and just making the best of the time you have with the friends that you have when you have them. So,
right.
I mean, so.
No, that's awesome to see that, kids are very resilient, so you're definitely showing them different cultures and stuff like that. And they're going to be well-versed, which is awesome. One of the things I wanted to talk to you about is you had mentioned how Anna now is starting to kind of, be excited about your nomadic lifestyle. Was it hard for her when you guys first started and stuff like that? I mean, probably I can't imagine, like, this is the way I see it, so bear with me, okay, Dave?
Sure.
I see it as the norm, right? Because nomadic lifestyles aren't really the norm, right?
Sure.
Everybody, when they get married, they think, this is the way I was raised and taught as well. You get a home, you have a home, you provide for that home, and you retire, right?
Yeah.
Now I know that goes probably in the mindset of a lot of people. That's, that's the way we're raised. So how big of a transition, or did your wife had a hard time with that? You know what I mean? Just going from the comfort and security of having a home, and then all of a sudden, guess what? Our kids are going to be on the road with us, and you're going to have to homeschool, and we're going to go travel the United States. Was it hard for her to accept that at first?
Yeah. When we first started dating,
Mm-hmm.
of course the conversation came up like, what do you do for a living?
Right.
and I was like, well, that's when I had that was my first line job. I was working in Artesia out in the oil fields,
Mm-hmm.
and I went to line school too, so I kind of knew what I was getting myself into. And so at the time I was working in the oil fields, and I told my wife, Anna, my girlfriend at the time, I said, I'm in this trade. It's super awesome. It's a little bit dangerous, but we can travel around the country if we want,
Mm-hmm.
I can make a good living doing this trade. And then, slowly but surely adding in the fact that it's a little more than a little dangerous, adding in the fact that I'm probably going to miss birthdays and holidays, and then sprinkle on top of that, there's going to be some long hours and 6-7 days a week, uh, you know,
Mm-hmm.
for the first few years during an apprenticeship. And then, I'd always talk to her about how, it would be really cool to go travel around.
Mm-hmm.
And so, for many years I talked about it, threw it around in conversation every once in a while. And then it wasn't until a few months before I topped out that Anna had mentioned, she
Mm-hmm.
just brought it up randomly. And she said, what would you do if I said I wanted to go travel around and buy a camper and go do this? And like I said earlier, I mean, it was game over. Like, yeah, you don't have to say that again. Let's do it. So I'm thinking, like, Anna transitioned really well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, she really did. Our first night in the camper, we both cried in each other's arms and said, I think we made a terrible mistake. And and this was after we had already signed the papers over to sell the house, so there was no
Mm-hmm.
going back. And after that first night, it's been all uphill since, man. It really
Mm-hmm.
has. Anna, she'll go in these spurts where she wants to go travel around. Right now she's in an area in her head where she wants to be hunkered down.
Mm-hmm.
So that's some of what you're probably talking about with the I feel like mamas are more or less wanting to maybe like settle down or be in a familiar place,
Mm-hmm.
and that helps them being able to raise the children. And I feel like after traveling around the last several years,
Mm-hmm.
that our home is our safe place, and it doesn't matter where that home is.
Mm.
Everything that happens inside that home is exactly the same. And homeschool, praying, laughing, having fun, eating, um, watching movies. I mean, everything that happens is almost inside that camper now. And the RV park we're at right now, there's a lot to do outdoors, but not every park we've been to has been like that. So, being inside that camper, it really kind of like you almost sometimes forget where you're at.
Mm-hmm.
Like, truthfully, on our East Coast road trip, it was a few times like, what state are we in right now? And it was just the familiarity of being in our camper, in our safe place, man, that I really feel like helps, everybody being able to do this lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
It's not so much of where you're at, but it's more of what's inside that camper. And our whole life is in that camper, man.
Mm-hmm.
Anna's made that camper our home. She's painted the whole inside. She's decorated it. I've built all the valances out of wood and starting to change all the trim out of the camper wood they have in there, and put my own wood in there and just make it look good. And we just tinker around and make it more and more our home. And the more we live in it, the more we just fall in love with the camper. It's just, it's so hard to deny it, man. It's really just really hard to deny the camper is our happy place, man. Truly our happy place.
And it's crazy. You're right. Because I mean, there's a saying, a house is not a home. It's two different things, right? I believe that a home is where your family is. And that could be in a trailer, that could be in an apartment, that can be wherever, right? If the family unit is intact and everybody's there, I think that's a home. It doesn't matter about the house, right? Yeah. So that's awesome to see that you guys are able to create that and adapt, right? Because a lot of the things you're showing, probably the number one thing I picked up from you, Dave, and which I really wanted you to come on this show and talk about your lifestyle, is you're able to adapt, and you're showing that to your children. I think more than ever, one of the biggest things that we can do to help our kids is show them how to adapt to change.
Yeah.
And with that being said, brother, thank you for coming on the show. I appreciate you, and tell your family we said hello. And man, thank you. Thank you for really sharing this. And I know you guys have a presence on Instagram. If someone wants to get a hold of you, can you share that with our audience as far as that goes? If there's any questions for Anna or for you or whatever, I'd like for people to be able to reach out to you, if that's okay.
For sure. Yeah. My wife is the Instagrammer about everything we do. Keeping up with the Culps. And you'll find it, Keeping Up with the Culps. And you'll see all the pictures and all of our adventures and what we're doing. And I really appreciate you having me on here today, Dave. God bless you and your family, man. And one of these days we'll get to meet up. I don't think we're too far away from one another right now. So
yeah, I think you're right down the road. So I'm here, brother.
Right on, Dave. I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, absolutely, Dave. Once again, thank you for coming on, and we'll be seeing you later.